unknown. They are enough.
Welcome back to A Cinema Films, your go-to destination for everything movies and cinema. Today, we're diving into the magical world of Disney's Frozen 2, the highly anticipated sequel that takes us on a deeper, more adventurous journey with Elsa, Anna, Olaf, Kristoff, and Sven. In this video, we'll explore how the film expands on the enchanting story of Frozen, uncover the mysteries behind Elsa's powers, and take a closer look at the stunning animation, heartfelt music, and emotional storytelling that captured audiences around the world. So sit back, relax, and let's step into the enchanted forest together as we unravel the magic of Frozen 2. Frozen 2, also known as Frozen 2, is a 2019 American animated musical fantasy film created by Walt Disney Animation Studios and distributed by Walt Disney Pictures as the highly anticipated sequel to the 2013 phenomenon Frozen, directed by Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee, with Lee also penning the screenplay. The film was produced by Peter Del Vecchio and developed from a story co-written by Buck, Lee, Mark Smith, Kristen Anderson Lopez, and Robert Lopez, featuring the voices of Kristen Bell as Anna, Idina Menzel as Elsa, Josh Gad as Olaf, and Jonathan Groff as Kristoff. The film is set 3 years after the events of the original. The story follows Anna, Elsa, Kristoff, Sven, and Olaf as they embark on a daring journey into an enchanted forest to uncover the secrets of Elsa's magical abilities and the truth about their kingdom's past. The film was officially approved in March 2015 after much discussion within Disney about whether a sequel could live up to the original's legacy. To push the boundaries of visual storytelling, the studio employed advanced and more intricate animation technology, resulting in breathtaking landscapes, magical effects, and lifelike character detail. The project was a massive collaborative effort across departments, and it reunited the songwriting duo Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez, who returned to craft memorable songs, while Kristoff Beck once again composed the musical score. Disney ensured the story's worldwide accessibility by translating the film into 46 languages, and the creative process was further showcased in the behind-the-scenes documentary series Into the Unknown, Making Frozen 2. The film had its world premiere in Hollywood, Los Angeles, on November 7, 2019, before being released in theaters across the United States on November 22. Critics responded positively overall, praising its animation, music, and themes, although some considered it less impactful than its groundbreaking predecessor. Commercially, however, Frozen 2 was a staggering success, grossing $1.450 billion globally and becoming the third highest-grossing film of 2019, the 10th highest-grossing film of all time, and the second highest-grossing animated film in history. It also set the record for the biggest worldwide opening weekend for an animated film, a title it held for 3 years. Beyond its box office triumph, the film earned numerous accolades, including a nomination for Best Original Song at the 92nd Academy Awards. With its combination of artistry, music, and emotional storytelling, Frozen 2 solidified the franchise's place as a modern classic, and its legacy will continue with the third installment, Frozen 3, scheduled long ago. King Agnar of Arendelle shared with his young daughters, Elsa and Anna, the story of their grandfather, King Runerd. Runerd had formed a treaty with the neighboring tribe of Northuldra, promising friendship and peace by constructing a dam in their homeland, the Enchanted Forest. However, the alliance did not last. A violent confrontation erupted, resulting in Runerd's death and enraging the elemental spirits of earth, fire, water, and air that lived in harmony with the forest. The angered spirits vanished, shrouding the enchanted forest in an impenetrable wall of mist that trapped all who remained inside. Agnar himself had barely survived, saved by a mysterious figure whose identity remained unknown to him at the time. 3 years after Elsa's coronation as Queen of Arendelle, the kingdom is thriving, and the characters are enjoying the beauty of autumn. Elsa, Anna, Kristoff, his loyal reindeer Sven, and the ever-cheerful snowman Olaf live peacefully, surrounded by warmth and joy. Yet, one night, Elsa begins to hear a mysterious and enchanting voice calling out to her, a sound only she can hear. Unable to ignore the voice, she follows its call, unintentionally awakening the elemental spirits and plunging Arendelle into chaos. The kingdom is forced to evacuate as natural forces stir. Seeking guidance, the rock trolls arrive, and their wise leader, Grandpappy, warns that only by uncovering the truth of the past can Elsa and Anna set things right. Determined, Elsa, Anna, Olaf, Kristoff, and Sven set out together, following the voice's call toward the enchanted forest. When they reach the mist-covered barrier, it parts at Elsa's touch, allowing them to enter. Almost immediately, they are confronted by the air spirit, who manifests as a powerful tornado. The group is swept onto its vortex, but Elsa manages to subdue it, transforming the winds into frozen sculptures that reveal haunting images from their father Agnar's past. Soon after, Elsa befriends the fire spirit, a small but volatile magical salamander whose flames had raged through the forest before calming at Elsa's presence. Deeper within the forest, the group encounters both the Northuldra people and a group of Arendellian soldiers who had been trapped for decades and remain locked in bitter conflict with one another. With compassion and wisdom, Anna and Elsa manage to broker a fragile truce, and it is here they make a crucial discovery. Their mother, Queen Idina, was Northuldran and had been the mysterious savior who once rescued Agnar. The Northuldra also share with them a legend of a fifth spirit, one destined to serve as a bridge between humans and the magic of nature. As Kristoff and Sven remained behind with the Northuldra, Elsa, Anna, and Olaf continued their journey northward. Their path leads them to the wreckage of their parents' lost ship, where they find a map pointing toward Tohallan, a mythical river of memories said to hold the answers about the past. Believing she must face this destiny alone, Elsa sends Anna and Olaf away despite Anna's desperate protests. On her solitary journey, Elsa confronts the sea itself, battling and ultimately taming the Enchanted, a mighty water spirit in the form of a horse, who guards the path to Tohallan. Riding the Enchanted, Elsa reaches the mystical glacier and enters its depths, where the voice calling her is revealed to be an echo of her mother Duna's memory. Within Tohallan, Elsa uncovers the truth. Her powers are not a curse, but a gift bestowed upon her by nature as a reward for Duna's brave and selfless act of saving Agnar. Pushed onward by her quest for answers, Elsa ventures deeper into Tohallan's most dangerous region, where she learns the devastating truth about her family's history. The dam her grandfather Runerd had built was never meant as a symbol of peace, but as a deliberate scheme to weaken the Northuldra by cutting off their resources. Consumed by his fear and hatred of magic, Runerd had been the one to instigate the conflict, murdering the Northuldran leader in cold blood. This revelation shatters Elsa, but before she can escape, she pushes herself too far and becomes frozen in ice, her body trapped and her spirit silenced. As Elsa freezes, her magic wanes, and Olaf begins to fade away, disappearing in Anna's arms as he tells her goodbye. Heartbroken but determined, Anna realizes that the only way to restore balance and peace is to undo the injustice of the past. She resolves to destroy the dam, the symbol of Runeard's betrayal and the cause of the elemental unrest. Summoning all her courage, Anna awakens the colossal earth giants, known as the J8 and leads them toward the dam. Dodging their massive strikes, she guides them until their hurled boulders crash into the structure, shattering it completely. The dam collapses, sending a tidal wave of water rushing toward Arendelle, threatening to drown the kingdom. At that very moment, Elsa, freed from her icy prison after Anna's brave act, rides the N8 at lightning speed back to Arendelle. Just in time, she harnesses her magic to freeze the surging flood, saving the kingdom from destruction. With the dam destroyed, the mist that had long imprisoned the forest lifts at last, freeing the enchanted forester and its people. Elsa reunites joyfully with Anna, and using her restored magic, she brings Olaf back to life. In the wake of these events, Kristoff finally finds the courage to propose to Anna, who happily accepts. The sisters then reflect on the truths they have uncovered. Elsa realizes that she herself is the fifth spirit, the bridge between humanity and the elemental magic of nature, while Anna, with her bravery and leadership, proves ready to rule. Elsa abdicates the throne, entrusting Arendelle to Anna, and chooses to remain in the enchanted forest as its guardian. Although they now live apart, the sisters promise to visit often, their bond stronger than ever. In a light-hearted post-credits scene, Olaf returns to Elsa's ice palace, where he amusingly recounts the entire story to Marshmallow, the towering snow guardian created by Elsa, and the playful Snowgeese, the tiny snowman she had once sneezed into existence. With laughter, magic, and peace restored, the tale of Frozen 2 comes to a close, bridging the past with the promise of a hopeful future. For release in 2027, the voice cast of Frozen 2 brought together both returning favorites and new additions, each lending depth and personality to the characters who drive the story forward. At the heart of the film is Idina Menzel, who once again voices Elsa, the Snow Queen of Arendelle and Anna's protective older sister. Menzel infuses Elsa with power and vulnerability, capturing her journey of self-discovery and her role as a bridge between humanity and magic. The character's younger self is voiced by Masha Conforti and Eva Bella, who portray Elsa's innocence and curiosity during childhood. Alongside her, Kristen Bell reprises her role as Anna, Elsa's younger sister, who grows from a determined princess into the rightful queen of Arendelle by the end of the film. Bell's warm and energetic performance embodies Anna's loyalty, optimism, and unwavering courage. The younger versions of Anna are voiced by Hadley Ganaway and Livy Stubenbach, adding tender authenticity to Anna's backstory. Josh Gad returns as Olaf, the enchanted snowman created by Elsa's magic, whose humor, curiosity, and heartfelt observations once again bring levity and emotional resonance to the narrative. Jonathan Groff provides the voice of Kristoff, the kind-hearted ice harvester who is deeply in love with Anna. Groff's performance captures Kristoff's earnest nature, awkward charm, and comedic struggles to propose to Anna, while he also demonstrates remarkable versatility by voicing Sven, Kristoff's loyal reindeer companion, as well as other reindeer in the herd, using distinct sounds and expressions to bring them to life. Among the new characters introduced in Frozen 2 is Yelena, the wise and protective leader of the Northuldra, voiced by Martha Plimpton. Sterling K. Brown portrays Lieutenant Mashes, a loyal soldier of Arendelle who had been trapped within the enchanted forest for decades, representing themes of duty, honor, and reconciliation. Jason Ritter joins the cast as Ryder, a spirited and friendly member of the Northuldra who shares a bond with reindeer much like Kristoff, while Rachel Matthews gives voice to Honeymarant, Ryder's sister, a compassionate and brave young woman who plays an important role in helping Elsa understand the connection between people and nature. The film also delves deeper into the family history of Anna and Elsa, with Evan Rachel Wood lending her voice to Queen Iduna, their loving and selfless mother, who is revealed to be of Northuldran heritage. Young Iduna is voiced by Delaney Rose Stein, capturing the character's gentleness as a child. Alfred Molina provides the voice of King Agnar, the girl's father, whose past decisions and secrets are pivotal to the film's story, while young Agnar is portrayed by Jackson Stein. The cast further expands to include Jeremy Sisto as King Runert, Agnar's father, and Elsa and Dana's grandfather, whose actions and prejudices against magic lie at the heart of the conflict that drives the film. Other returning roles include Tilda and Heinz as Grandpappy, the wise and mystical rock troll elder who guides Anna and Elsa in their quest for truth. The ethereal and haunting voice that calls out to Elsa throughout the film is performed by the Norwegian singer Aurora, whose vocals provide a mystical and otherworldly dimension to the story. Alan Tudyk, known for his versatility across Disney projects, lends his voice to several supporting roles, including a guard, a Northuldran leader, and an Arendellian soldier, once again showcasing his adaptability in bringing small yet memorable characters to life. Rounding out the cast, Paul Briggs reprises his role as Marshmallow, the towering snow monster Elsa created, who appears in the film's post-credits scene, adding a humorous touch alongside the mischievous Snowgeese. Together, this ensemble cast weaves a tapestry of voices that brings the magical world of Frozen 2 to life, blending returning performances with fresh additions to expand the narrative and deepen the emotional core of the story. The production of Frozen 2 began almost immediately after the unprecedented success of the first film, although its development was approached with great care. Producer Peter Del Vecchio, along with directors Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee, had enjoyed a strong creative collaboration on Frozen and openly discussed the possibility of continuing the story. In early 2014, conversations within Disney revealed hesitation about rushing into a sequel, with studio leaders prioritizing a Broadway adaptation first and expressing concern that any follow-up would need to live up to the enormous cultural impact of the original. Bob Iger, then CEO of the Walt Disney Company, emphasized that the Frozen franchise was destined to be timeless, much like The Lion King, and that the studio would not force a sequel unless it had a story worthy of its characters. Momentum began building when Jennifer Lee and Chris Buck were authorized to explore potential ideas. While working on the short film Frozen Fever in 2015, the creative team realized how much they missed the world and its characters, which reignited serious discussion about the sequel. Buck later explained that one of the earliest decisions was to determine satisfying arcs for Anna and Elsa. Anna would one day take her place as Queen of Arendelle, while Elsa would find true freedom by embracing her unique identity. This conceptual foundation set the tone for the rest of the project. By 2015, Frozen 2 was officially announced at Disney's annual shareholder meeting, with Buck and Lee confirmed as directors and Del Vecchio once again producing. The team embarked on extensive research trips to Norway, Finland, and Iceland, immersing themselves in Nordic landscapes and cultures that would inspire the film's environments. Their vision centered on a thematic duality. Elsa would be framed as a mythic hero, her magical powers placing her on a legendary path, while Lana would embody the archetype of a fairy tale heroine who, though without magic, thrives in a magical world through courage and love. Screenwriting was led by Jennifer Lee, with additional contributions from Alison Schroeder, Mark Smith, and songwriting duo Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez, ensuring continuity between story and music. Voice recording for the cast began in September 2017, with Idina Menzel, Kristen Bell, Jonathan Groff, and Josh Gad reprising their roles. Some sessions were delayed due to cast schedules, but the process unfolded steadily. New talent such as Evan Rachel Wood and Sterling K. Brown joined as Queen Iduna and Lieutenant Mashes, while Alfred Molina was cast as King Agnar. The mystical call that haunted Elsa throughout the film was crafted from the Latin sequence Dies Rei and performed by Norwegian singer Aurora in the haunting Scandinavian vocal style known as kulning. The filmmakers were committed to authenticity in cultural representation. Disney worked with me experts through an advisory group called Verded, formed in partnership with the me Council and the Parliaments of Finland, Norway, and Sweden, to ensure the portrayal of the Northuldra tribe was respectful and accurate. Despite fan campaigns for Elsa to be given a same-sex love interest, the filmmakers decided her story would instead focus on self-discovery and identity, choosing to keep her journey universal and inward rather than romantic. As the story evolved, the film underwent significant revisions after early test screenings. While adults praised the narrative's complexity, younger audiences found some elements confusing. This prompted changes to clarify the identity of the voice calling to Elsa, better explain her transformation, and add more levity. Olaf's humorous recap of the first film replaced a lengthy expository scene, and additional comedic moments were written to balance the heavier themes. Entire sequences were reworked, including the resurrection of Olaf, which animators spent 2 months creating before it was ultimately cut. Even with these changes, the film required 61 entirely new shots and 35 reanimated sequences before reaching completion. One of the most challenging sequences to finish was Show Yourself, Elsa's climactic musical number with Annette Hallen. The scene required enormous resources, combining music, visual effects, and emotional storytelling to bring Elsa's revelation to life. The song itself went through multiple drafts before its final form, only solidifying once the filmmakers confirmed that the mysterious voice was indeed Queen Idina. With deadlines looming, every department within Disney Animation rallied to complete the scene, making it one of the most ambitious in the studio's history. The design process was equally intricate. Character and costume designs underwent multiple revisions, reflecting the passage of time since the first film. Elsa's more mature look drew inspiration from high fashion, particularly designers like Alexander McQueen and Elsa. White Lana's wardrobe was modeled on Norwegian folk costumes of the mid-19th century. Advancements in technology, including the use of marvelous designer software, allowed for unprecedented detail in embroidery, beadwork, and fabric movement. Elsa's new wardrobe was tailored to reflect her strength and independence, while Lana's reflected her grounded nature and growing maturity. Animation was a monumental undertaking, involving more than 800 people, including 80 animators. Each major character was overseen by supervising animators, with Wayne Unton once again guiding Elsa's graceful movements, which were inspired by modern dance and choreographed for fluidity and strength. Animators were cautioned against overly superhero-like movements, keeping Elsa's powers distinct from those of traditional action characters. The elemental spirits, from the fiery salamander Bruni to the watery N8-Sedilike and the towering J8-Pilcroton giants, each presented unique technical challenges. Developing the N8-Sedilike's liquid appearance alone required nearly 8 months of work, while new tools like Swoop were created to animate Gale, the playful wind spirit. Technological innovation defined much of the production. Hair simulation was advanced with programs like Quicksilver, first developed for Mona, while lighting software called Beast brought new realism to Elsa's shimmering hair. Fire, vegetation, and water simulations were refined with custom software, pushing the boundaries of visual storytelling. Even small details, like the embroidery on Anna's dresses or the translucency of magical ice, were given painstaking attention to enhance realism and artistry. Ultimately, Frozen 2 represented one of Disney Animation's most ambitious projects, blending myth, fairy tale, and emotional storytelling with cutting-edge technology. The dedication of hundreds of artists, writers, musicians, and animators ensured that the film not only honored the legacy of Frozen but expanded its world in bold new ways, culminating in a production that was as much a technical marvel as it was an emotional journey. The musical foundation of Frozen 2 was once again entrusted to the award-winning duo Kristen Anderson-Lopez and Robert Lopez, who had previously penned the unforgettable songs of the first Frozen. Their return ensured a strong continuity in the film's musical identity while also allowing the soundtrack to expand into more mature and thematically complex territory. Alongside them, composer Kristoff also reprised his role, returning to craft the film's sweeping orchestral score. Together, this creative team sought to balance lyrical storytelling with cinematic composition, weaving songs and score into a unified emotional journey that paralleled the growth of its central characters. The official soundtrack was released on November 15, 2019, 1 week prior to the film's theatrical debut. As part of its promotional strategy, Disney released Panic! At the Disco's cover of Into the Unknown, a bold, Thematic reimagining of Elsa's central ballad ahead of the full album. The soundtrack ultimately comprised 7 original songs, along with reprises and a playful remix of Reindeers Are Better Than People, originally featured in the first film, giving Kristoff's character another musical moment that blended humor with heart. Kristoff Beck's score for Frozen 2 was carefully designed to capture the sisters' emotional and psychological development, moving into deeper and more sophisticated soundscapes than those of the first film. Beck explained that he wanted the orchestration to reflect not just the grandeur of the enchanted forest and Atohalan but also the inner conflicts of Elsa and Anna. His use of richer harmonies, darker tones, and expanded thematic motifs mirrored the sequel's more complex narrative, immersing audiences in the mystery, danger, and wonder that shaped the character's journey. Meanwhile, Kristen Anderson-Lopez described the album as functioning like a meta-story, with each song acting as both a narrative driver and an emotional reflection of the characters' arcs. The songwriting process itself was documented as part of the making-of series Into the Unknown, the making of Frozen 2. To capture the intimate process, director Megan Harding arranged for a camera crew to record the Lopez's brainstorming sessions in their Brooklyn home. However, the composers found the constant presence of cameras intrusive, and much of their most meaningful creative work was ultimately completed off-camera. This allowed them to write freely, channeling both the playful energy and the emotional gravitas required for songs like Show Yourself, The Next Right Thing, and Into the Unknown. Collectively, the soundtrack and score of Frozen 2 elevated the film beyond its predecessor by fusing the grandeur of orchestral composition with emotionally resonant songwriting. The result was a musical tapestry that not only honored the legacy of Frozen but also ventured into new territory, reflecting the film's themes of growth, discovery, and self-acceptance. Frozen 2 became a global box office phenomenon, grossing $477.4 million in the United States and Canada and $976.3 million in international markets, for a worldwide total of $1.453 billion. This extraordinary success made it the third highest-grossing film of 2019, the 10th highest-grossing film of all time at the time of release, and the second highest-grossing animated film in history, only behind the 2019 remake of The Lion King, which Disney classified as live-action rather than animation. By December 15, 2019, less than a month after its release, Frozen 2 had already crossed the $1 billion mark at the global box office, cementing its position as one of the most financially successful animated features ever produced. Analysts credited much of this success to the film's strategic release near Thanksgiving, which allowed families to revisit the movie multiple times during the holiday season. Comscore analyst Paul Dergarabadian noted that the film was perfectly positioned to maintain momentum into 2020. According to Deadline Hollywood, after production budgets, marketing expenses, and talent participation deals were factored in, the film generated an estimated net profit of $599 million, placing it second on the publication's annual list of the most valuable blockbusters of 2019. In North America, Frozen 2 opened on November 22, 2019, alongside A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood and 21 Bridges. It was released in 4,440 theaters, including 2,500 locations in 3D, 800 in premium large formats with 400 in IMAX, and 235 in D-Box and 4DX. On its first day, the film earned $41.8 million, which included $8.5 million from Thursday night previews. It went on to earn $130 million during its opening weekend, the highest opening ever for an animated film released in November. The audience was predominantly female, with about 70% of viewers being families, reflecting its strong appeal as a holiday family event. In its second weekend, the film dropped only 34%, earning $85.6 million, with a remarkable $125 million across the extended 5-day Thanksgiving frame. During its third weekend, it collected another $34.7 million, and by December 29, 2019, It had already surpassed $400 million in domestic revenue by the time it ended its North American theatrical run on March 19, 2020, just as the COVID-19 pandemic began disrupting the film industry. Frozen 2 had accumulated $477.4 million domestically, making it the fourth highest-grossing film of 2019 in the United States and Canada. Internationally, Frozen 2 opened in 37 markets during its first weekend, earning $228.2 million overseas and $358.5 million globally, setting a new record for the highest worldwide debut of an animated film, surpassing the 2019 remake of The Lion King. The film broke multiple records across major territories, including the United Kingdom with a $17.8 million opening, the highest ever for an animated release in the region, and France with a $13.4 million debut, also a record for animation. In China, Frozen 2 earned $53 million, becoming the largest debut for a Disney animation or Pixar film. Japan contributed $18.2 million during its opening weekend, marking one of the strongest animated debuts in the country, while South Korea delivered $31.5 million, which was the third biggest opening of any film in the nation's history. Germany and Spain also posted strong results with $14.9 million and $5.8 million, respectively. In its second weekend in the United Kingdom, the film added another $11.4 million, raising its total to $35.3 million. By early January 2020, Frozen 2's overseas gross had surpassed $875.3 million, and by mid-2021, its top-performing international markets included Japan with $122.6 million, China with $122.3 million, South Korea with $95.5 million, the United Kingdom with $69.7 million, Germany with $60.6 million, and France with $53.9 million. By the conclusion of its run, Frozen 2 had firmly established itself as one of Disney's most profitable and influential animated features, achieving a worldwide gross of $1.453 billion. The film not only outperformed its predecessor but also redefined expectations for animated sequels at the global box office. Disney itself declared Frozen 2 the highest-grossing animated feature of all time under its classification system, further underscoring the cultural and financial power of the franchise. Its dominance across markets worldwide demonstrated that animated features could compete head-to-head with live-action blockbusters, particularly in international territories like China and Japan, where the film resonated with extraordinary strength. Frozen 2 was met with generally positive reviews from both critics and audiences, though it faced frequent comparisons to its record-breaking predecessor. On Rotten Tomatoes, it holds an approval rating of 77% based on 336 professional reviews, with an average rating of 6.7, while the site's consensus suggested that although the sequel could not fully recreate the unforgettable impact of the first film, it still offered a dazzling adventure into new territory. Metacritic gave the film a weighted average score of 64 out of 100 from 47 critics, labeling the response as generally favorable. Audiences, however, showed a slightly more enthusiastic reception, as Cinema Score polls awarded it an A, lower than Frozen's A+, and post-track surveys rated it 4.5 out of 5 stars on opening day. Many critics praised the craftsmanship of the animation, the ambitious themes, and the emotional delivery, with the New York Times' Manohla Dargis describing it as a colorful and uplifting tale that balanced fantasy and history, while Nell Minogue of RogerRabbit.com commended its ability to address meaningful issues in a way that resonated with viewers across generations. Other critics such as Peter Travers of Rolling Stone, Simon Hans of The Guardian, and Todd McCarthy of The Hollywood Reporter were drawn to its striking visual imagery, stunning autumnal palette, and memorable music, with Travers highlighting the joy of reconnecting with beloved characters and McCarthy emphasizing its humor, engaging songs, and focus on female empowerment. Some even saw its storyline as echoing real-world struggles like climate change. Despite these strengths, Frozen 2 also attracted criticism for weaknesses in narrative clarity and musical memorability. John Anderson of The Wall Street Journal argued that it lacked innovation and delivered a less compelling story and score than the original. Empire's Ben Travis noted that the film leaned too heavily on mythology and backstory, while Oliver Jones of The Observer criticized its focus on Anna and Elsa as too narrow, limiting the film's energy and originality. The Los Angeles Times and The Washington Post similarly pointed to its darker tone and complicated storytelling as drawbacks, with Minnie herself cautioning that its over-detailed plot risked alienating some viewers. In the end, Frozen 2 was seen as a visually stunning and emotionally resonant sequel that expanded its world with ambition, but it divided opinion on whether it achieved the same timeless magic as the first installment. Frozen 2 doesn't reach the heights of the first film, but with more complex emotional themes and better songs, there's still plenty of Disney magic. In the early 2010s, Walt Disney Animation Studios was coming off two princess films, The Princess and the Frog and Tangled, that were solid, but not wildly successful. Then came Frozen, a reimagining of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale The Snow Queen. Frozen delivered Disney magic in spades, with a heartfelt story about sisters, a duo of incredibly cute creatures and a massively successful hit in Let It Go. It all culminated in Frozen receiving widespread praise from critics and earning over $1 billion at the worldwide box office. Now 6 years later, Frozen 2 is hitting theaters, though it's perhaps more to do with Frozen's success than the story demanding it. Frozen 2 doesn't reach the heights of the first film, but with more complex emotional themes and better songs, there's still plenty of Disney magic. After the events of Frozen, Anna, Kristen Bell, and Elsa, Idina Menzel, are living happily in Arendelle, having family game nights with Anna's boyfriend Kristoff, Jonathan Groff, his reindeer Sven and the magical living snowman created by Elsa, Olaf, Josh Gad. However, Elsa begins to hear a voice calling to her from the north, and when magical spirits drive the residents of Arendelle out of their homes, Anna, Elsa and their friends decide to follow the voice. They track it to a mystical enchanted forest surrounded by an impenetrable mist that parts for Elsa's magic. In order to save Arendelle, the sisters will have to trust each other, and trust in themselves, as they learn the truth about Elsa's powers and the history of Arendelle. To the credit of screenwriters Jennifer Lee and Alison Schroeder, Frozen 2 finds a compelling way to continue the stories of Anna and Elsa, with the former focused on protecting her sister, to the detriment of her other relationships, while the latter is still struggling to find her place in the world. However, in the writer's bid to give every character their own distinct arc, Frozen 2 winds up feeling a little bit like a hodgepodge of storylines that sometimes intersect. That's not to say the arcs aren't strong, because Frozen 2 does mine some very complex emotional themes for Anna, Elsa and even Kristoff's storylines. The Disney movie doesn't shy away from big and tough emotions, diving deep into some themes that are surprisingly dark for a children's movie, though Frozen 2 does offer a roadmap for kids to deal with the emotions it brings up. Still, it's not as cohesive a movie as Frozen was, which may be down to the sequel never even attempting to introduce a villain. Instead, Frozen 2 takes the risk of foregoing the typical Disney movie story structure for a more mature style, and while it doesn't entirely work, other aspects of the film are compelling enough to keep viewers engaged. Such aspects of Frozen 2 that help propel the film forward include its new musical numbers, written by returning duo Robert Lopez and Kristen Anderson Lopez. While there isn't a wild breakout hit on the level of Let It Go, overall the music is much stronger and has more standouts, like Menzel's Into the Unknown and Belle's The Next Right Thing. Groff's Lost in the Woods is also sure to be a crowd pleaser. In addition to the music, the animation of Frozen 2 is altogether absolutely stunning, and completely breathtaking at certain key moments. The filmmakers use Frozen 2's animation to visually complement the movie's themes, and just as the story is more complex, the animation is even more sophisticated as well. The level of detail is truly mesmerizing and elevates all other aspects of Frozen 2. So while the larger story of Frozen 2 leaves something to be desired, Directors Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee deliver a visual and audio feast for viewers, one that will leave an emotional impact. Frozen 2 does lose some of the magic of the original movie, but that's to be expected when Frozen was such a surprising success. To their credit, the filmmakers smartly, but sparingly, play on Frozen's success, and use Olaf's brand of silly humor in more clever ways. Plus, with Sven meeting a whole herd of reindeer, including baby reindeer, and Frozen 2 introducing the impossibly adorable salamander Bruno, Disney delivers a whole cadre of cute animals for viewers young and old. There's a compelling mix of silly and complex in Frozen 2 that demonstrates Disney's evolving animation output. While much of Frozen 2 hits the mark, there's still something missing, whether that's some unknowable magic, a more cohesive story, or a better reason for existing than simply to capitalize on Frozen's success. Ultimately, Frozen 2 is a magical return to the world of Anna and Elsa, one that has matured with those who fell in love with the original. It's dazzling, entertaining and fun for the whole family, though it does skew a little older. It might be a little too dark for very young viewers, but again, Frozen 2 does handle its more complex themes in ways that children will understand, and will help children to understand themselves better. Many fans of the first film will find something to like in the sequel, and Frozen 2 does provide an enjoyable theater experience with its gorgeous visuals and impressive soundtrack coming to life on the big screen. Altogether, Frozen 2 is an admirable sequel, even if it's not quite as great as the original. Frozen 2 has an autumnal palette, with russet and gold setting the stage for an unexpectedly elegiac tone in the follow-up to one of Disney's most beloved animated features. Even the irrepressibly cheerful snowman Olaf, Josh Gad, now permafrosted so even the warmest hugs don't melt him, is worried about change as the leaves turn orange and float down from tree branches. He is confident, though, that as soon as he gets older he will understand everything. After all, that's what he expects from Elsa, Idina Menzel, Anna, Kristen Bell, and Kristoff. Jonathan Groff. Anna reassures him, in song, of course, that yes, some things change, but some things are forever. She tells him that even when you don't know the answers you can always just do the next right thing, and that will help. Frozen 2 is funny, exciting, sad, romantic, and silly. It has great songs and a hilarious recap of the first movie, and then it is all of that all over again, plus an extra scene all the way at the end of the credits. The sequel can seem overstuffed at times, and tries a bit too hard to replicate the magic of the first film, but it is impressively willing to engage with some complicated issues in a frank manner that is accessible to children and insightful even for adults. It throws a lot at us, like rock monsters, a cute fire salamander, and a magnificent water horse, the latter two likely to appear on holiday gift wish lists. The settings are gorgeously imagined and wonderfully inviting. Anna has a sensational new wardrobe. We learn family secrets, some comforting, some painful. Characters confront some of the most daunting human questions about loss, change, trust and how we can best heal the wounds of the past. In a charming flashback, we see the princesses as little girls, playing together happily and being put to bed by loving parents. The king tells them a bedtime story from his own childhood about visiting an enchanted forest with his father to celebrate the completion of a dam the Arendellians built to help the indigenous people. But the gathering turned into an attack. The king was killed, and only the young prince survived, rescued by a mysterious character. Ever since, the enchanted forest has been barricaded by a powerful mist. The girls learn from their mother's lullaby that the river may hold some answers about what happened. Dive down deep into her sound, but not too deep where you'll be drowned, the queen sings. When all is lost, then all is found. It's surprising how dark lullabies can get, a character points out. In the present day, the sisters live happily in the castle, enjoying family time. Olaf is the charades MVP, and caring for their community. But Elsa hears voices calling to her from the enchanted forest. She is afraid, but also thrilled. It is an invitation she struggles to admit that she wants to accept, leading to this film's belter ballad, Into the Unknown. I've had my adventure, I don't need something new. A broken bar. Don't you know there's part of me that loves to go into the unknown. And so, after a warning from Kristoff's love expert friend Pabby, Kira tilde inverted exclamation mark and Heinz, and Olaf's not always helpful fun facts commentary along the way. They reach the enchanted forest. There, they meet new characters, sing some more songs, sort out some misunderstandings and try to protect each other. They confront the consequences of bad, even tragic choices made by their family. Parents often ask me why children, especially preschoolers and middle schoolers, like to watch the same movies over and over. I tell them that when everything around you seems to be drastically changing on a daily basis and you barely know yourself anymore, it can be a great comfort to have a movie friend that's the same every time. Frozen 2 is destined to be one of those movies children will want to see dozens of the times. It will reward repeat viewings with both its reassuring messages about responding to change with courage and curiosity, and its challenge to understand the mistakes of the past so we can begin to work on the next right thing together. 3. The much-anticipated sequel to Disney's smash hit Frozen debuted on the big screen this Friday. Unfortunately, I was able to go and see it on opening weekend. Unlike the original that was an unexpected success, Frozen 2 has been promoted online for months, and even in today's world where spoilers are readily available online, it was still possible to let the movie be a complete surprise. Before I get talking about the new movie, without spoilers of course, let's rewind back to 2013 and the original movie's record-breaking success that brought Princess Anna and Queen Elsa into the global limelight. The film was released in November, but I didn't watch it until the DVD was released in April 2014. From that moment I was hooked, and over the past 5 years I've watched the movie lots of times, attended a Frozen event in Florida and constantly talked about a trip to the Norwegian fjords. I was desperate to watch the long-awaited sequel over opening weekend, and it certainly did not disappoint. In Frozen 2, Princess Anna and Queen Elsa are happily living in Arendelle, 3 years after the traumatic events of the first movie and the unveiling of Elsa's magical powers. It's autumn, and at first glance everything seems very calm and ordinary. But Elsa appears very nervous and uncomfortable. All is not quite what it seems, and the Fab Five, Anna, Elsa, Kristoff, Olaf and Sven, end up heading off on an incredible adventure into the unknown. The title of the film's leading song, a story of discovery, empowerment and tolerance. In Frozen 2 we are given an insight into the sisters' upbringing and the origins of Arendelle, perfectly crafted to fit into the Frozen timeline. Frozen 2 is the sequel we didn't know we needed, and a chance to see a different side to Elsa that we didn't get to meet in the original. The original movie was all about female empowerment and the power of sisterhood, and Frozen 2 doesn't stray away from these themes, which is great. If anything, I think Anna and Elsa are even greater role models in Frozen 2. They both have a great sense of perspective and morals that young children can take a lot from. I wish we'd have had strong female heroines like Anna and Elsa in movies when I was young. I'd definitely have wanted to dress up as either of them. The quality of the animation has improved no end since the original, and the autumn setting is a great way for Disney to showcase their attention to detail and color technology. The reds, pinks and oranges are just lovely against the peaceful mountainous landscapes, transforming Arendelle into autumn heaven. Unlike the first movie where Let It Go was the clear favorite, Frozen 2 has many powerful tracks. Into the Unknown is the standout piece with Idina Menzel belting those incredible high notes, but my personal favorite is Show Yourself, Idina Menzel and Evan Rachel Wood. It's far softer, more emotional, and really helps the audience understand Elsa as a character, just like Let It Go did. I just hope the Frozen 2 songs do well in award season. There are some absolutely beautiful tunes on the soundtrack. Frozen 2 has been well worth the wait, and I am so excited for fans across the globe to see the incredible movie. It's mature than the original and showcases Anna and Elsa in a different light, but their sisterly bond is still as strong as ever. For when Frozen came out in theaters in 2013, some people had a hard time letting it go. Apparently, they had such a hard time doing so that Disney saw fit to make a sequel of it. So now we have their newest animated film, Frozen 2, which was a delightful surprise. It brings yet another great story to a world that most people cannot get enough of. Frozen 2 takes place after the events of the first film, with Elsa still ruling Arendelle. After Frozen, Many people online had theories about what happened to Anna and Elsa's parents since their ship had sunk. Those questions are answered here, where Anna and Elsa must confront the mystery about their parents' past and how to save Arendelle from this threat. Together, they go on a journey to discover how an enchanted forest is the key to it all. The biggest reason I loved Frozen was because of the most lovable snowman around, Olaf. In this first film, Olaf was charming, funny and lovable. For this sequel, he even became more knowledgeable. After Frozen, I thought I could not love the snowman any more than I did, but after Frozen 2, I can say he's one hell of a snowman. He honestly had me cracking up every time he was on the screen. What became a big part of Frozen were the hit songs like Let It Go. In Frozen 2, the music and score are not only as amazing as the first, but the songs bring deeper meaning. There is a particular song called Show Yourself that Elsa sings that genuinely gave me goosebumps because I felt the emotions she was feeling. Each song had a genuine purpose and did not feel forced just because it is a musical. Olaf did get his chance to sing as well, but I wish I got a little more from that funny snowman. Something about the theme of Frozen that I loved was the true love between the sisterly bond of Anna and Elsa. My worry going to see Frozen 2 was that they would lose sight of this theme because Anna was now with Kristoff, so it was exciting to see the writers expand more on this theme. And as common as this saying is, I love that the film shows how independent Anna and Elsa are. They did not need a man to save them, and Anna did not lose sight of that even being with Kristoff. It is a great message to show young audiences around the world watching this movie because the true theme to this film is love and finding yourself. Much to its benefit, both Anna and Elsa embody those two aspects. Therefore, seeing this story unfold was great because they both discovered their own independence. But what made this movie even better than it could be was how visually pleasing it looked. From the scenes to the characters to even the animals in this movie, it all had a theme. Simply put, Elsa's new look is jaw-dropping. It truly brought out the Elsa she was always meant to be, freeing and confident. Coming from shielding her powers in Frozen to embracing every aspect of herself in Frozen 2 was a full-circle character arc for her, and it worked really well. Overall, Frozen 2 was what I expected for a sequel. It was solid but was not better than this first movie. From a story perspective, this is certainly a predictable movie. However, it is unique in a fair amount of ways. Incorporating Anna and Elsa's parents in this sequel was not a surprise since their story was incomplete, but I did not expect the writers to execute this element so beautifully. Seeing how Anna and Elsa are the women that they are now all came together wonderfully. While it is not one of Disney's best, this aspect truly enriches the film to be one for the books. 5 directors: Chris Buck and Jennifer Lee cast: Kristen Bell, Idina Menzel, Jonathan Groff, Josh Gad, Sterling K. Brown, Evan Rachel Wood, Alfred Molina, Martha Plimpton. Plot: Queen Elsa is haunted by a singing voice that only she can hear. When elemental forces put Arendelle at risk, Elsa is joined by Anna, Kristoff, Olaf and Sven and a journey into an enchanted forest to seek answers. Review: You'd hope that Disney was feeling confident with this sequel, as Frozen remains their biggest blockbuster to date and a follow-up carries incredibly high expectations. Unfortunately for the studio, Frozen was always intended to be a standalone story with all the plot threads tied together at the end. This means they need some contrived reworking of events from the previous movie. It also means a whole mess of exposition. Anna, Belle, and Elsa Menzel were told the story of the enchanted forest as children before their parents vanished on an ocean journey. Many years later, while the characters of the original film are enjoying a peaceful life in Arendelle, Queen Elsa begins hearing a distant voice. Distracted and sleepless, she attempts to follow the voice and awakens elemental spirits representing fire, water, earth and air, causing damage to Arendelle resulting in an evacuation. Elsa is determined to find the source of the voice and sets out for the enchanted forest along with Anna, her boyfriend Kristoff, Groff, his reindeer Sven and the sentient snowman Olaf. Gad. Each has their own personal journey, with Anna and Elsa learning some painful truths about their family, particularly in relation to an indigenous tribe known as the North Heldra. There's quite a bit to take on here, with the lead characters making discoveries about their own parents and their death, the actions of their ancestors and a spiritual story about nature spirits. At times the audiences are getting shunted back and forth between themes of reparations, environmentalism and personal responsibility. The story lurches forward without ever finding a steady pace. If the creatives struggle to put together a solid story to follow a happily ever after, they were totally lost with the supporting cast. Kristoff is left working with a generic awkward proposal plot we've seen done a dozen times before, and Olaf is struggling to comprehend a new curiosity that has come with age. The both get benched well before the final act, so they only ever feel like they're included for continuity. There are a handful of new characters, but they don't get enough screen time to establish themselves. The story is wonky and inorganic, but fortunately the rest of the movie holds up just fine. Disney continue to push the boundaries of animation technology, and the water effects are especially impressive. The autumn theming make much of the environments very easy on the eyes, and the elemental attacks are all very nice. At an initial viewing, none of the songs stood out as being a new let it go phenomena. Don't take my word for it though, because I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to music. Each of the songs did the job just fine, and a couple are very clearly written to showcase the vocal talents of Idina Menzel, which is as spellbinding as ever. All of the vocal talents are on point, with Josh Gad delivering a less irritating take on Olaf, who is a character I've found annoying in the past. Kristen Bell is certainly the star of the movie, providing the funniest and most heartfelt moments. Frozen 2 does not live up to the lightning-in-a-bottle success of the original, but it's far from disappointing. It's a visually striking and entertaining film that will please the youngest set of fans. It certainly made my daughter a very happy fangirl. Rating: 7 out of 10. 6. Frozen 2 has made a big box office splash over the Thanksgiving holiday. Since its release, the animated sequel to Disney's biggest animated feature has nabbed over $700 million worldwide. The problem? It's just not a very good movie, at least when compared to the original Frozen. My hunch is that the box office success is largely due to two factors. First, people are curious to see what happens with Elsa, Anna, Kristoff and Olaf after a 6-year hiatus. When I went to see the original, my 12-year-old daughter was 6, my 9-year-old son was 3. Of course we're all curious to see what this sequel is all about, and why not go to the theater? Second, it's a tentpole family movie for a whole new generation of 6-year-old girls who don't care about plot holes or mediocre music. They love it for the princesses, the magic and the cool water horse. I admit, I did really enjoy that horse, and Olaf, who was once again quite funny this time around. The rest? Well, let's take a look at the 5 biggest problems with Frozen 2. Spoilers below. 1. The plot is a convoluted mess. Frozen 2 could have been a grand adventure. Instead, it was a slog down memory lane. In the original Frozen, the conceit is quite simple. 2 princesses are raised by their parents in a palace, but one is cursed with superhuman powers over snow and water and ice. Elsa is a waterbender, essentially, and it makes her feel isolated. Her power is too strong and she doesn't know what to do with it, so even as a girl she begins shutting out everyone close to her, including her sister, Anna. When their parents die at sea, the girls face even more drama and heartache, and Elsa leaves to go it alone in the frozen north, where she builds herself an ice palace and sings Let It Go. Anna goes to find her lost sister, and one thing leads to another, and pretty soon there's a story of betrayal and true love, and you know the rest. To be honest, I think the original got off to a slow start and then ended powerfully. Frozen 2 follows suit, to some degree, with the ending much better than the beginning, but the whole thing is a convoluted mess. The plot, from the very get-go, feels forced and tacked on. Suddenly we have this whole story about a magical river that can tell you everything about the past. Suddenly Elsa is hearing voices, and an elemental spirit shows up at the Arendelle and puts out all the fires, starts an earthquake and forces everyone out. This apparently all ties into the girls' parents' past. We learn of a story that they heard from their father as young girls, about how their grandfather and his men built a dam for the tribal North Elder people of an enchanted forest to the north, and how the whole thing ended in blood and tears and the forest was put under a dark spell. In any case, the girls head north to find out the truth about all of this, leaving their subjects behind them. Elsa makes her way, alone, to a frozen island where there's a frozen river called Tohaland, where she discovers that she's the fifth primal spirit alongside water, fire, earth and wind. So Elsa is basically the fifth element, I guess. She discovers the truth about her grandfather, who had built the dam not to help the Northuldra, but to bind them to his power. He almost killed their leader, and I guess this led to the fight that doomed the forest, and the only way to end the curse is to break the dam. And just as she freezes to death, but not really, she sends the memory to Anna, and then Anna goes and breaks the dam by getting giants to throw rocks at it, and all is saved. It's a pretty messy story that relies on inserting a lot of backstory that was mysteriously not present at all in the original film. Some sequels draw naturally from their predecessor, but this one felt like pretty much every idea, including why the girl's parents died at sea, was conceived after the first film was out already. To be fair, there were some bones of a good story here, but the movie failed to capitalize on any of them, and instead we were left with a contrived narrative and a too rapid conclusion that, for me at least, felt utterly unearned and unsatisfactory. 2. Elsa and Anna's parentage, and the noble savage. This all leads back to Elsa and Anna's parents. It turns out that the girl who saved their father during the battle in the enchanted forest was none other than their mother. Surprise, though, not really a surprise, but I guess their father didn't know this somehow. She never told him, or did they just lie to their kids about it? Also, why does every member of the Northuldra look somewhat Native American or maybe Inuit, but then their mom is just completely white? Edit, I guess they are meant to resemble the native Sami people, but that aside, the rest of my point still stands. Neither girl has any physical signs of being part mixed race. This is part of the problem with retconning the story and jamming in this entire plot without establishing anything about it in the first movie. It's just another muddled, mucked up aspect of the film. And the fact that the girl's parents didn't just perish at sea, but as part of some ridiculous quest to discover whether Elsa was, in fact, the fifth element, just cheapens the whole thing. Furthermore, it occurs to me that the film gets perilously close to noble savage territory. There are two trends in American filmmaking when it comes to Native Americans and the portrayal of Native Americans in fiction and film, or, in this case, the Sami people. The first is the savage, in which American Indians are presented as violent and barbaric, whooping and scalping and killing the poor white settlers. Then there is the noble savage, in which all natives are portrayed as good, peaceful and at one with nature. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, the noble savage is an idealized concept of uncivilized man, who symbolizes the innate goodness of one not exposed to the corrupting influences of civilization. TV tropes is another good source. The Northuldra are the latter. Not only do they live in harmony with nature, a harmony that the vicious white settler has undone with inexplicable treachery, they live in an enchanted forest and are in tune with the magical spirits there. This is, I'm afraid to say, the noble savage portrayal of indigenous people to a T. They are dull. They are noble. They are a backdrop to a story about two princesses, coupled with the fact that the queen is lily white and both daughters also lily white. Despite their mixed heritage, the noble savage elements become even more problematic since we then move right into white savior territory. Native people are just that, people. Treating them as savages of any kind, whether violent or noble, is pretentious and bigoted. End of story. Note: much of Frozen 2 appears to be a reaction to the reaction the first film received for not including many people of color and for whitewashing. The problem with how Frozen 2 handled this is that they really couldn't up and change the race of the lead characters, so instead they just had them retroactively become half Northuldra. It doesn't work. 3. There's not really much of an antagonist. The closest thing to an antagonist, other than the curse of the forest, ends up being the princess's grandfather, King Runert. He sought to rule the Northuldra, for reasons never fully explained, by building the dam and harming their forest, for reasons. We never really learn anything more about the man or his ambitions, or why this would actually make the people of the forest more likely to be bound to him, or why a dam would hurt the forest. It seems like a very small tribe, very far from Arendelle's borders. The movie does little to help us understand the politics or geography or culture of either people in relation to one another, thus leaving the conflict bare bones at best. In fact, we don't even really ever learn how exactly the fighting broke out in the first place, or why a presumably pre-agrarian society would want a dam to begin with, or why such a society is in Europe when it's so clearly Native American. Sure, King Runert attacks the Northuldra leader, but he does so in secret. He, quite horribly, stabs the man in the back. But how does this lead to the fight? And why would he risk all in such an attack, when he could, instead, continue to argue that the dam is actually a boon? Or why not invite the leaders of the Northuldra to Arendelle and then kill them there, or have them ambushed by bandits on the road? Even the villain is written like a Morona and then quickly forgotten. It's such a sloppy move for a bad guy clever enough to use a massive, expensive dam like that in the first place. He could have just invaded in force and probably saved a lot of treasure in the process. None of it adds up. Oh. And how come nobody over the past however many decades thought to destroy the dam? Surely some of the other Northuldra would have come to the same conclusion and found a way to destroy it? Why does it take Elsa and Anna to come up with the answer, an answer you could see coming a mile away from your seat in the theater? And that's that. That's our bad guy. Nobody tries to stop Anna from destroying the dam, or rather, nobody really tries very hard. The few remaining soldiers put up a quick resistance but buckle immediately. What if, instead, King Runert had still been alive, living as a hermit in the enchanted forest? What if they'd found him and were overjoyed to meet him for the first time, and he seemed like a kindly old man? And what if, after all that, we then discovered his cruelty and treachery and he was the one who tried to stop them from destroying the dam? What if he trapped Elsa and ordered Mattias and the other soldiers to stop Anna, and Mattias's loyalties had to be tested? This is all much better than what we got, but still falls victim to the story's underlying problems with race, overly vague backstory and, well, all the rest. Think of the villain from Tangled. The witch, Mother Gothel, wasn't just a witch as she masqueraded as Rapunzel's mother. It made her villainy that much more unspeakable and horrific, her betrayal of her daughter that much more despicable. Same with Hans in Frozen. He pretended to love Anna, only to show his true colors in the end and very nearly kill her. While that film's central conflict was really between the two sisters, having a compelling and deadly villain certainly helped bring the final act together. In Frozen 2, there's no similar betrayal beyond one dredged up in the memory of water. And ultimately, there's no real resolution beyond a forced happy ending with the Arendellians and Northuldra united by a marriage that, well, is full of its own problems as noted above. 4. Anna and Kristoff's betrothal woes felt super forced. There's a running gag throughout Frozen 2 in which Kristoff tries, and fails, to propose to Anna. At first, each time he tries to get her attention for long enough to pop the question, she's too distracted and he's too passive to grab her attention. Then, when he's finally able to get her to pay attention to him for more than 2 seconds, he puts his foot in his mouth. Over and over again. He almost picks bad times to ask, like on the start of their adventure to the enchanted forest when there's obviously way too much going on. Anna basically asks him to make out in the carriage and instead he tries to ask her to marry him, but starts by reminding her of her doomed romance with Hans. If that had been the only time she took him the wrong way, I'd be okay with it. But later on, at the enchanted forest, he says to her under other circumstances, this would be pretty romantic, or some such, clearly indicating that the enchanted forest could be a romantic getaway if they weren't there to free it from a dastardly curse. But how does Anna respond? By saying, "What do you mean with somebody else?" Which, I'm sorry, has to be the stupidest line in the whole movie. Clearly, that's not what Kristoff meant. Since when is Anna the super jealous, paranoid type? It doesn't make sense. The wacky shenanigans continue when Kristoff meets a Northuldran youth who sympathizes with his plight. Fortunately, the young man says, his people have a special way of proposing that's bound to get her attention. Apparently it involves going off into the forest without telling Anna to meet him there later, surrounding himself with a bunch of caribou, and waiting for her to show up. Crazy how that doesn't work. Crazy how just disappearing in the dead of night without a word sends the wrong message. Then again, It's also more than a little silly that Anna just bails on him entirely. Could he be in trouble? Could there be some misunderstanding? Surely she and Elsa would have at least spent the night in the Nordhundla village instead of leaving in the dark to hurry on their quest. Do neither of them care whatsoever about Kristoff's well-being, or their own ability to navigate a strange land in the pitch black? Olaf and Sven were the only parts of the movie that I didn't really have a problem with. The next morning, a female figure appears in the mist, and Kristoff begins his proposal before even bothering to see who she is, perhaps forgetting that he never told Anna he was going out alone into the woods that night to begin with. It turns out it's the matriarch of the Northuldra people, and it's just not a funny bit at all. The movie is attempting to pull a comedy of errors here, but it fails miserably at every turn. So then Kristoff sings a funny song about being lost in the woods and ditched by his girl, and it's purposefully over the top like some 80s heartbreak ballad. But even it falls flat thanks to the poor build-up and shoddy writing. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but having your characters act really out of character just to further the plot is a bad idea that makes otherwise fun characters seem stupid or insane. Anna is a kind, compassionate, brave person. Why would she be so quick to doubt Kristoff, and then abandon him? Why would she freak out when he says they might die, knowing full well the risks they're taking? Anna is a twit in Frozen 2, and it's completely out of character. Kristoff is far from the brave, self-sacrificing young man from the original. In Frozen 2 he's just stupid. Kristoff isn't the brightest bulb in the light bulb factory, but even he would know that simply wandering off into the night without a word is bound to lead to problems. How is he supposed to propose to her when she doesn't even know where he is? And what's the big rush to propose anyways? They're in the middle of a crisis. Kristoff could just be patient instead of all needy and weird. And finally, I was pretty let down by the Northuldran proposal ceremony. It's just a guy standing on a rock surrounded by reindeer. Okay, you couldn't come up with anything more interesting. Again, the Northuldra are only half-baked at best, built on vague ideas of what indigenous people are like in our most vapid romantic texts. All of this is resolved in the end when Kristoff shows up at just the right time to save Anna, and then he proposes and she says yes, of course. And now I guess he gets to be king. Happy day. 5. The music is forgettable at best. I will be blunt. Into the Unknown is no Let It Go. In fact, none of the songs in Frozen 2 even come close. Elsa hollering Into the Unknown 4 times at rising pitch is only catchy, and the way hammers beaten over one's head are catchy. You can't ignore it, but you don't really want to sing along. I, like so many other parents at the time, grew mighty tired of Let It Go, but there's no denying that it had a great hook and held a powerful message for young girls especially, and it ended up being a great subject of satire. It was a cultural phenomenon, even though I thought Tangled had better, funnier, more emotionally powerful music than anything in the original Frozen, except for maybe Olaf's lovely and hilarious In Summer. Olaf's new song in Frozen 2, When I Am Older, is cute, but nowhere near as funny. Pretty much the entire movie is made up of largely forgettable songs, and since they come every few minutes in a steady, sonic barrage, that's kind of a big deal. In fact, I'd say that Frozen 2's lack of compelling or catchy tunes is its very biggest problem. A lot of story issues can be forgiven in a kids' movie like this if you want to sing along. I cannot hum a single tune from the whole lot except for the chorus of Into the Unknown, which I find more annoying than anything. It doesn't help that I find Idina Menzel's voice, while quite powerful and capable, often too shrill at the higher end. I vastly prefer Kristen and did find her songs the better of the lot, but still, I can't recall a single one. Oh, and this hilarious video with Jimmy Fallon and the incredibly talented Kristen singing a medley of a whole bunch of Disney songs illustrates my point about Into the Unknown perfectly. The way Fallon sings it is pretty much how I hear it in the movie. Were there parts of Frozen 2 that I did enjoy? Absolutely. The magic itself was quite breathtaking at times. Elsa's powers grew immensely, and I wonder, is she also the Avatar now, capable of bending earth, water and air as well as water? And that led to some truly gorgeous moments. The visuals in general were stunning, and at times the forest looked very nearly real. There were funny and touching moments throughout, especially between Olaf and Anna. And Sven and the other reindeer are all just too cute. I want one. I want a pet reindeer that talks to me when I'm down and a pet snowman that never melts and never shuts up. Okay, maybe a mute pet snowman. There were many moments I found myself smiling or laughing or just immersed in the action, but few where I found myself surprised or relieved or really drawn into the conflict. Enjoyable, yes. Necessary, not really. As a sequel, Frozen 2 is an undeniable success. It just isn't a terribly good movie. Frozen 2 could have been a grand adventure. Instead, it was a slog down memory lane where a couple white chicks learned that they're half Native American, after all, and also key to bringing peace between two nations who barely know the other one exists. And also Elsa is the fifth element and she's definitely going to hook up with Bruce Willis in Frozen 3, or something. 7. Frozen 2 has everything you would expect: a catchy new songs, more time with easy-to-like characters, striking backdrops, cute little jokes, a voyage of discovery plot and female empowerment galore. Except the unexpected, when you've made an original film that became the biggest grossing animated movie of all time with a $1.27 billion worldwide haul, with income from an ongoing stage version and myriad merchandising sources as gravy, any temptation to mess with success would be deep-sixed in an instant. So, yes, Disney has been careful, cautious, conscientious and committed to continuing the franchise with the utmost fidelity to the original, resulting in a sequel that can't miss with its massive constituency and will make another mint, but at the same time can't help but feel predictable, safe and beholden to formulaic rules. As in the first outing 6 years ago, but just 3 years later in terms of the narrative, Queen Elsa, voiced by Idina Menzel, remains an intriguing and rather more serious young woman than has been the norm for young female Disney royalty through the years, one who seems intent upon understanding her abilities and heritage. It's her present preoccupation to explore and master them, to harness the power of nature, hers and that which remains to be discovered. Domestic jibber-jabber among the royal family of Arendelle dominates the early going in a rather let's-get-reacquainted manner. And this is something at which Elsa's chatty younger sister Anna, Kristen Bell, particularly excels. During this domestic first act set at the castle, a new song is introduced every few minutes, and there's nothing wrong with that. As before, Kristen Anderson Lopez and Robert Lopez have turned out a host of snappy, catchy tunes, at least 2 or 3 of which seem very likely to become favorites. The songwriting team's contribution to the franchise's success can scarcely be overestimated. Before long, however, a devastating storm serves to get everyone out of the house and a select few into an enchanted forest, from which Elsa feels like she's being called. But while the troops gather to figure out what to do, some of the same crew from the previous film are given a few moments apiece to reintroduce themselves with their basic shtick, most notably including comic relief snowman Olaf, Josh Gad, who can be amusing in small doses, and Anna's oafish beau Kristoff, Jonathan Groff, who, sadly, has become no brighter in the intervening years. Although the pick to this point can hardly be called dynamic, Elsa's almost mystical belief in a strange and unknown destiny begins refocusing the narrative once she sets out on her quest of self-discovery. She becomes, increasingly, an often brooding woman of dark powers, convinced that the truth must be found, whatever it may be. She's no innocent Dorothy looking for a way back home through a scary forest, although the journey has its emphatic perils. Rather, Elsa is a seeker and seer of a potentially high order, a woman determined to learn the truth about the world she inhabits and rules, whatever the risks and cost. This, along with some quite exceptional shape-shifting, is what makes Elsa stand out among the crowd of commoners and sets her increasingly apart from the more motley crowd accompanying her on her journey to hitherto unimagined places. Without missing a beat, Frozen 2 at this point could have easily become a tale of a dead serious journey, a kind of cartoon the Revenant with awful weather and dangerous creatures. Here, notably, some enormous rocks that become hulking giants that shake the earth when they walk. Visually, too, some of the effects point in the direction of a head trip. But, indeed and alas, that's a different movie. The journey we get is an equivocation, one that seems momentarily tempted by destinations perhaps not on the map but understandably travels on another, much safer road. So while it flirts with the dark side, where the movie actually goes are the destinations of colorful and undisturbing sensation. Elsa's underwater exploits are particularly striking, and constantly reassuring humor. There's nothing wrong with that in terms of the massive, all-inclusive audience Disney is aiming for and will most certainly reach, and no one wants to scare the 4-year-olds too much. There are moments in Bambi and Sleeping Beauty, at the very least, that supplied children of earlier generations with nightmares for years. Certainly the overriding intent of Jennifer Lee's script. She also solely wrote the first installment and co-directed both with Chris Buck, is to position Elsa as a serious role model, inspiration for girls and young women, a resilient, can-do, nothing-can't-stop-me character able to overcome any challenge in her path. This she most certainly does, and a raft of co-story writers has joined in to try to stir the ingredients to the desired balance among drama, excitement, comedy, suspense, action and inspiration. Unfortunately, if you stop to notice you can readily sense the efforts of the many cooks in the kitchen, recommending a bit more sugar here, a pinch of spice over there, bake this a little longer, put some extra frosting on just for good measure. The recipe is a good one, but you can feel all the fuss that went into it. 8 released in 2013 to a record-scorching $1.29 billion. Frozen was such a huge hit for Walt Disney Animation Studios that many of its fans were probably assuming its sequel would play it safe and deliver more of the same, a sparkling 21st century fairy tale in which a pair of wide-eyed heroines shrug off the need to be rescued by men, demonstrating the power of self-reliance and sisterly love. Certainly, screenwriter Jennifer Lee, who once again co-directs with Chris Buck, would be foolish to stray too far from this formula, but Frozen 2 is anything but a mindless remake. Ironically, Frozen fans may secretly be wishing for a more straightforward rehash, and to them, the best advice comes in the form of 3 little words: let it go, a mantra they've surely internalized since the first movie. As with Snowflakes, no two are alike, and this gorgeous, glittering reunion of siblings Anna, Kristen Bell, and Elsa, Idina Menzel, proudly flaunts its own identity, even while taking care to incorporate so much of what worked about the original like a steady stream of wisecracks from wonderstruck snow person Olaf, Josh Gad. In myriad ways, Frozen 2 feels more like a follow-up to Pixar's Brave than it does an extension of Disney's earlier, very loose, adaptation of Hans Christian Andersen's The Snow Queen. Gone is the need for a conventional villain, gone are any expectations of Princess Charming, or otherwise gone are the gowns that have shaped young women's dreams of prom and wedding attire for more than a century. Frozen 2 pushes the girl power themes even further, rejecting dresses in favor of pants for much of the adventure, as Anna and Elsa set out to find the source of a mysterious song emanating from somewhere far to the north, a mythical place called Tohalan that holds the secret of their parents' disappearance, as well as the key to finding peace with nature and the Northuldra, an indigenous tribe toward whom they've been taught to be wary. Frozen 2 isn't obnoxious about its revisionist point of view, a progressive vis-a-vis the Disney values of past decades, though it's hardly subtle about its millennial-minded politics either. The film opens with the bedtime story version of the kingdom's past as recounted by the royal sisters' parents, King Agnar, Alfred Molina, and Queen Iduna, Evan Rachel Wood, of Arendelle, in which their grandfather, Jeremy Sisto, and head General Mashes, Sterling K. Brown, are portrayed as the victims of a magical attack that resulted in an enchanted forest being wrapped in mist for more than 34 years. This prologue ends with the revelation, too obvious to be considered a spoiler, that Granddad was actually a conniving colonialist, and that everything bad that has happened to the family was a direct result of his misguided attempts to manipulate others. Such themes surely resonate with today's younger audiences, who, when confronted with issues such as racial inequity and climate change, are being forced to reckon with the sins and shortcomings of previous generations. The words of environmental activist Greta Thunberg's recent speech echo in Anna and Elsa's actions, You are failing us. But the young people are starting to understand your betrayal. Conventional Disney princess movies in which alabaster beauties from Snow White to Belle passively awaited the liberating effects of true love's kiss may have been taken at face value for most of the studio's history, but today's kids have gotten savvy. They recognize the often problematic socializing effects of popular entertainment, and they demand better. They also know when they're being patronized, and at times, Frozen 2 tiptoes a bit too carefully along that fine line, where escapism stops being fun because the adults responsible have started overthinking the politics of it all. The first half-hour smacks of calculation, as the movie finds ways to message to audiences where it stands in relation to the original, rather than intuitively picking up where that installment left off, the way the Toy Story and How to Train Your Dragon sequels so gracefully did. In a way, songwriting couple Kristen Anderson-Lopez and Robert Lopez set this challenge for themselves by creating such a memorable Broadway-style soundtrack for the first movie, and here, the first couple songs, including the forgettable All Is Found, feel second best. It's not until Menzel sings Into the Unknown that Frozen 2 comes anywhere near the goosebump-inducing icicles on the nape of your neck thrill audiences experienced with Let It Go last time around. Although none of this cartoon's new tunes packs quite that punch. Even so, the characters spend an awful lot of time singing. Groff delivers the amusingly over-earnest pop idol parody Lost in the Woods, and later, Belle belts out Goody Goody Anthem The Next Right Thing. All three of those songs are repeated in less interesting Radio Disney-ready cover versions over the marathon end credits roll, performed by the likes of Panic at the Disco, Casey Musgraves and Weezer. In a Broadway show, the musical numbers reveal feelings the characters wouldn't dare speak aloud, although the most effective I Want sung here comes from none other than Olaf, who yearns to understand the world better when I am older. All four characters alternate articulating where their minds are at the opening via the song Some Things Never Change, and though the sequence features stunning animation, its presence stalls the proceedings. Whereas the prologue informs that the fighting enraged the spirits, and they turned against us. A language clearly engineered to misdirect. It's not until nearly an hour later, when the trolls explain, the past is not what it seems. A broken bar that truth must be found, that the story finally finds its proper course. Reunited by their last adventure, the sisters are now closer than ever. Though Elsa has been named queen, she privately wrestles with the feeling that she doesn't belong in Arendelle. She's been gifted with magical abilities, namely, the blessing, curse of blasting snow and ice from her fingertips. And yet, the first movie never explained how or why she came by these talents. Whiteland lacks them altogether. Frozen 2 gives Elsa a chance to get to the bottom of the mystery while showing audiences that it's okay for people to feel restless when their potential is being constrained. Normally, a character in Elsa's position would wander off on her own in search of answers, but her connection with Anna is too strong for that, and her sister insists on coming along. As Anna tells her at one point, "You don't want me to follow you into fire? Then don't run into fire." Clearly, familial love still takes precedence over the romantic kind this time around. While Anna focuses on accompanying Elsa to the enchanted forest, her would-be suitor Kristoff, Jonathan Groff, is trying to psych himself into proposing marriage, but every time he opens his mouth in Anna's company, he winds up choking on his own foot instead. The movie isn't necessarily against matrimony, but it doesn't want girls to think it's the secret to living happily ever after either, offering a variation on the way fairy tales and Jane Austen novels have sold the institution to female audiences in the past. Confiding in his ever-reliable reindeer Sven, Kristoff struggles with showing Anna his true feelings for most of the movie, before at last making himself useful with the words "I'm here. What do you need?" How wonderful it would be to see that simple phrase adopted by the problem-solving men of Western society. It may well be the most welcome lesson the movie has to offer. Anna doesn't need rescuing in Frozen 2, but she could use support, and rather than barging in and taking control, Kristoff respects her enough to pitch in with whatever plan she has in motion. The visuals, imbued with an iridescent lavender glow color palette throughout, are lovely but never overwhelming. That's important, since computer-generated movies are capable of appearing so much better than their live-action counterparts that they sometimes fall into the trap of distracting us with the way they look. The Lion King, for instance, exploited a magic hour all-the-time aesthetic that makes that elusive sheen seem less special. What Disney hasn't quite solved is its digitally rendered character designs, subtly altered from the earlier movie but still more akin to computer-generated Bratz dolls with their big eyes, bobbleheads and pink plastic skin than to appealing hand-drawn humans. As a sequel, Frozen 2 is locked into the look of the earlier film, whereas Moana took a step in the right direction, finding a three-dimensional equivalent for the studio's classical animated characters. Maybe that's a question of generational taste, as younger audiences plainly see themselves in Anna and Elsa, in both style and spirit. How fitting then, that writer-director Lee's script reflects a more modernized set of values. In a world where old-timers accuse the youth of being oversensitive snowflakes, Frozen 2 shows what it means to have one's heart in the right place. 9. The Kingdom of Arendelle is at peace. Kristoff, Jonathan Groff, is planning a proposal to Anna. Kristen Bell, Snowman Olaf, Josh Gad, is loving life in the sun, and Elsa, Idina Menzel, is content in her role as Queen until she hears a mysterious song calling her out into the wilderness. As a rule, animated Disney princess movies don't get theatrical sequels they end, by definition, with a happily ever after. But then, 2013's Frozen went far beyond her average animated Disney princess movie, a $1.2 billion box office behemoth that subverted fairy tale notions of true love, with an earworm soundtrack that sent frazzled parents loopy on endless repeat listens. So it is that Frozen's happy ending gives way to a big screen sequel that as they tend to goes bigger, bolder, and more epic. It begins gloriously, with a lush, confident opening act that establishes the new status quo. Elsa, Menzel, in control of her ice powers, ruling Arendelle and living with love and warmth among sister Anna, Belle, soon-to-be brother-in-law Kristoff, Groff, and goofy snowman Olaf. Gad. The first film's frosty palette is swapped for a gorgeous autumnal aesthetic. All golden leaves, hazy sunsets and open fires, bolstered by a string of stirring musical numbers that deal beautifully with ideas of growth and impermanence. I can't freeze this moment, but I can seize this day, sings Elsa. Frozen 2 isn't just set in a season of change, it's about the inevitability of it. It's also a more mature film that deals with notions of maturity, for an audience that has itself grown up in the 6 years since the previous outing. That means an expansive, mythical tone as the gang sets off on a quest tied into a mystery around Elsa and Anna's family history, incorporating epic fantasy elements from Middle-earthian stone giants to elemental spirits and indigenous tribal communities. Like Moana before it, Frozen 2 takes Disney further into Studio Ghibli territory, dropping binary good and evil storytelling for more nuanced depictions of the balance between humanity and nature. The monolithic specter of a Let It Go is not only winked at in a sharp gag, but is followed up